At the car park, the old man was limp in the passenger seat, his head resting on his chest, flanked by the old woman and young man Bode saw from the call room window. Doctor, my husband, the woman said between breaths, adjusting her wrapper around her waist. He stopped talking. He was talking. Madam, calm down. Dragging his feet, Bode walked over to the man, took out his pulse oximeter, placed it on his cold right thumb and waited. There was no pulse. He used the stethoscope to listen to his chest. Nothing. Madam, he's dead, Bode said. Why are we wasting time here? I went to collect oxygen. Let's try to resuscitate, Nstiti said. Bode ignored her, took the documentation paperwork, wrote down BID, brought in dead, and handed her back the form. Hiding her disgust, she made her way back to the accident and emergency entrance. The woman looked at him as if he had just spoken some strange foreign language. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sounds came at first. Then tears followed. The young man looked stunned. He opened the car door and sat in the back seat. Bode glanced at his wristwatch and sighed, relieved he could get back to Esosa on time, and began walking away when a strong arm pulled him back. What do you mean by that? He was alive. We brought him in alive, the young man said, holding him by the collar. We have been waiting while you were wasting time inside. I saw you, bastard. If you touch me again, I will woz you, Bode said, pulling himself away from the young man as he raised his fist to his face and assumed a fighting stance. A trickle of doctors and nurses from inside the accident and emergency room watched from the windows. It will not be well with you. Bole followed the voice to the old woman. Her eyes had darkened and lips were drawn in a scowl. Koni dafwen, she said. She began beating her chest in rhythm with her voice, repeating the same again and again in a murderous chant. It will not be well with you. Koni dafwen. Fuck off, Bode said, backing away and feeling for keys in his pockets. He stumbled across the door of his Corolla, got in, and drove, watching from his rearview mirror as Nstiti returned to the patient with a bag and mask. Thank you.
Such sad tale. Thank you very much for such a beautiful, evocative reading, Chinaza Eziaghighala. Thank you very much. Without wasting much time, let's have Saddiq Dzukogi here. Dr. Saddiq Dzukogi. Are you here, Dr. Dzukogi? Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Still early, but it's definitely worth it.
Thank you so much.
Kudos to Molara Woods. That was an amazing excerpt. I am going to read something that I've been doing lately, which is bearing witness. Even though, like bearing witness is being criminalized in this particular moment. The poem is titled October 30th, 2023. After Virginia Mott, with a sentence from Kazao Ishiguro. 1. They have been singing Biladi Biladi for 75 years. In the sea, they cannot wander too deep to fish. They cannot get paper, lumber beams, no books, lentils, no building materials. This is the second war of independence, and this means expulsion, but trust us. I must go back to the horrible men in history to find such horrid rhetoric. It gives me joy when I wear the mourn of anguish. What can I punch into their small mouths? It's like, what is a door if not a mouth? What is joy if not the sight of another's pain? I will take this land too, because you have not behaved as you should. You have not ceased making noises when we clip your nails from your fingers. When the soldiers rummaged the room sniffing through lingerie, the world said it was a pastime. When he rode a child's bicycle mockingly, everyone asked if humiliation was a sport. What should it be called? And I remember Ishiguro, Some of you will have fine monuments by which the living may remember the evil done to you. 2. War is a man, not a woman. How can it be anything else, really? Blood is a yolk inside a favorite thing. This yolk hears of light, beauty, and grace, a father bearer. What else can I tell you? From the heel, crowding the bullion of an afternoon into the window of my room, is somebody's child romping the butt of a gun into the face of somebody else's grandmother, the huggish belly of a tyrant half full. He will continue his tyranny when he is full. It is the only ceasefire we can afford. Our prayers cannot be granted by the wind. It can only carry them to God's ears. I can tell you this for sure. Like a drunken bird, you lose your wings to stupidity and declare, "Look, the tyrant is my friend," and I privately conveyed my concerns. 3. I thought that has undone enough. We love to unleash it on an assumed adversary. When it strangles an innocent child, we say collateral damage. It's a twine of choice. Man will always come up with language to sanitize his depravity. Down by the shimmy old cottage, they have made their way out of the house of reason. I can tell you this for sure. Look at the way the world slops in silence. Look at the way it shut its eyes and clamped its ears. Seated at his throne of democracy is a wheeze with wings of thorns, corpses at his feet, darlings sacrificed for his sullen quest for supremacy. I ask, what is it that flits about in your heart? Have you heard? Ghosts are rejoicing. They can finally roam the world outside of Gaza. They're thrilled to see a sachet of chocolate, though they cannot hold it in their mouth unless assisted by the hand and feet of wind. Thank you so much.
War is a man and not a woman. I wonder what inspired those lines, those beautiful lines. Thank you very much, Dr. Saddiq Dzukogi, for that beautiful rendition. We truly appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Ukamaka Olisakwe. Ukamaka, are you here? Looking amazing as always. Thank you very much for being here. And our apologies for the early timing on your end. Thank you very much.
It's fine. I am reading on the same day with Molara Wood, so it's an honor to do this on the same platform with her and all my peers that I absolutely adore. So I'm setting my time because I have a very problematic relationship with time. So I've set my alarm to inform me. I'll read from an excerpt from an essay I published 2 years ago. It's now 2 years with Catapult. I chose this because of something that happened recently, and I think it resonates also with me now. So it's called I'm Done Listening, published in Catapult. My oldest daughter, Chi, often teases me that my middle name is Worry. "Mommy, you worry too much," she says whenever I am worked up over simple things I should ignore, but that eat me from the inside, reducing me to a nervous wreck. Like last month, when she had a mild disagreement with her sister, son. I should be there for them, with them, but I haven't gone home in 2 years. Because of the economic impact of the COVID-19 and the challenges of completing a PhD that is not fully funded, I must work all the time, even during summer, to afford rent and the insanely expensive insurance my university insists on, else I risk losing my place in this world I had sacrificed so much to get into. I can't tell if I have always been this terribly anxious person all my life, but I know when everything changed for me. Right after I gave birth to my last child in 2007, my body and mind succumbed to the complications, postpartum, whose ravages took many years before I could learn how to describe them, how to navigate them. I am often haunted by the memories of my body disintegrating during the first 6 weeks postpartum, my cervix descending, my mind clouded, foggy, how I would go on walks and wouldn't remember who I talked to or what I saw. I became repulsed by the idea of penetrative sex or any form of intimacy with my husband. I was often overwhelmed by an immense feeling of tiredness, my thoughts drifting away in the middle of conversations. And I was always crying, perpetually wanting to crawl into my bed and shut the world away, to be all by myself. I was on fix for so long, and it took leaving my home country and pursuing a degree in America before I could feel the ground solid again under my feet, before I could comprehend the purposefulness of my life. But this new healing phase means being away from my children at long intervals, and I am constantly burdened with guilt, because a good mother is the one who stays close to home, who puts her children and her family before her needs. Or at least this is what we are told. My extended family often reminds me of this. I find myself pacing the breath of my living room, replaying what they said to me, wishing I had said something smarter in return. I delete deeply personal Twitter posts after a few minutes because I worry about the reaction they could stir. I mostly stay away from Facebook because my relatives are all over the platform, pouring through my words, commenting under my photos, dishing remarks about how much skin I showed or how I am enjoying in America. And if they wanted to sting me a little, they DM me questions asking, "Do you talk to your children? When are you coming home?" Now, picture the level of uneasiness that sucks me into its depths when my aunt, whose last message to me was a Christmas note she forwarded to everyone on her list, sends me a message asking when I'll be coming home to see my children, the children I abandoned. I stare at my phone. Her status says she's online. She's looking as I read her message, and I imagine she can see through the screen and into my eyes, which pool with tears. I leave the message unread and fumble through the rest of my morning. Thankfully, it is a Tuesday and I do not have to face my students. I am the sort of person who, when her morning is ruined, slogs through the rest of the day. I have tried to learn how to be indifferent, to be selfish, to flip the bird at the world and ignore what people say. When all these methods fail, I distract myself with music, with movies, with Twitter hot takes, which have a way of dragging you into its dark bellies, in the way the brain smothers the burn of the pepper in your eyes after you licked a pinch of salt. But this matter has to do with my children, and no amount of salt, not even repeated listens to my favorite labyrinth records, can dull my misery. I stared dazedly through a passionate class, most of which I spent looking at my laptop, faking a smile, muttering incoherent responses to the questions my professor poses me. At the end of the evening, I am too sad to be angry. I am tired. I have a wonderful relationship with my children who I speak with every other day, who always tell me how proud they are of me. Only yesterday, Somi sent me a screenshot of a poem she wrote with a caption that says she's following in my footsteps. We spoke for a long time, after which I felt accomplished, fulfilled. This is the reason I'm alive. My children are my life. But then, because of a fault in my biological wiring, or perhaps my upbringing that holds me in vice grip, I can't stop doubting myself, can't shut out the voice of my people who insist that a good mother is the one who stays close to home, who sacrifices her ambition for her family, who puts everyone else's needs before hers. I assess myself by these metrics, these passive-aggressive comments my people litter on my Facebook. The judgment is clear every time, and my aunt is the only one bold enough to say it with her chest. I am a bad mom.